Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hey, thanks for jumping on. Today, I wanna talk about something that's been going on with me for a long time, and I just want to bring some light onto it. And the reason I want to do it is because I really want to be an encouragement to people who just don't jive with organized religion. And hey, I get you. And let me tell you why. So this was not the intention, I don't think, of anybody in the organized religion or the church, which basically means a big expensive building with a bunch of rituals that people do. Not a church of the heart necessarily. But so my problem with that was that I learned, this is what I learned in church, is that I just couldn't do enough. A part of that's my personality, having a very sympathetic, empathetic personality, very sensitive, caring about people. It's like every need I thought I had to meet, and nobody ever told me I didn't. I was just allowed to run and run and run and run and run. It's kind of like Forrest Gump, just running. Yeah, I was running. That was what I was doing. I was just running. And I had so many issues, and was really such an atheist, such a rebel, all of these things, and then I had in the middle of a very addictive season and whatnot, and I was just running as far away from this whole concept of God and religion and whatnot as I could. I didn't know that there was a God who was completely different than what I imagined him. He was empathy, and is. He is empathy. He is grace. He is beauty. He is compassion. All of these things. I didn't know that. All I thought was, hey, there's all these expectations and all these things, and I just don't measure up. I'm not good enough. And it was bad. And so that was my experience. And then right in the middle of trying to run as hard as I could in the opposite direction, boom, I ran right into beauty, mercy, wonder, empathy, grace. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, I was like, of course Jesus is the only whole person that ever lived. All the rest of us are looking for something, some of it in different ways. Some of it we're looking at escape, some of it we're looking at achievement, some of it we're looking at getting more and more and more degrees or climbing the ladder of success, but we're all looking for something. I'm like, he's the only person that ever lived that wasn't looking for something. His whole purpose was to bring all the rest of us into what he's like and to be part of that spirit, not that striving, need something spirit, got to get something spirit. I'm like, wow. So I remembered all these stories I had heard about him. Now, and it was in a very religious context, but still, I remember those stories, and I thought about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I never saw him that way. I never saw him that way. All the rest of us are incomplete. He's complete. And he's the one who loves me and who took all that incompleteness, all those lies I believed about how incomplete I was, all the things I did trying to find something to complete me because I believed all the lies, all the harm I did to myself and other people and whatnot. He took all that. Because he is mercy, he took all that. He nailed it to a cross. He buried it in a grave, and he came out of that grave alive and brought me with him, and all of us with him. Anybody who'll believe it. And so that's what I went. So I was like, oh my gosh. So what do I do now? I'm out here. Nobody else around me believes that. I see that. It's like, wow, what am I supposed to do with that? So I thought, well, probably I should go back to church. They must all know that and have had this experience. No, they didn't. Maybe some of them did. A few. But so my experience when I got back there was that it's like, hey, so glad you're here. Wow, you had a great experience. Welcome back. There's like almost 8 billion people that need you. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, that's not overwhelming at all. But I, as a good person thinking I was doing the right thing, decided just to get busy. Maybe y'all remember that old bumper sticker that said, look busy, Jesus is coming. That's what I felt like. And so I went from this sense of wonder and overwhelm and amazement. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first spiritual awakening. I don't know if I told you all this, but I was driving. This is when I was ODU, and I was driving to school one morning, going across the Hampton Boulevard Bridge, which goes over a river, and it was raining. And I was looking out at the beauty of this rain, the peace of this rain just falling over the river. It's like I could see every little circle that the raindrops were making. And the radio station I was listening to was playing the song by The Who, Love Rain O'er Me. And I was like, oh my gosh, Oh my gosh, there is such a thing as love. Oh, wow, it's for us. It's coming from heaven down to us, just like the raindrops. And I was like, wow, this is just beyond beautiful. And yes, 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 some more of that, more of that. I love that. And so that was my experience. So I was coming from this amazing, transcendental kind of place. And then when I got back to the church, and there were just all these things to do. I'm not saying they were bad things. I'm saying for me, it ended up being a bad thing because I had no boundaries. Um, and I ended up, boy, I remember I was the young life leader at the local high school. I was teaching child evangelism. I was the college and career Sunday school class leader. I was teaching the adult chapter analysis, inductive Bible study. I was going to church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday. At one point, I was driving out to Virginia Beach to go on 7 o'clock on Saturday morning. You know, you finally get a day off, but are you going to rest? No, we got stuff to do. Got stuff to do. And so I was doing stuff, and I was doing lots of stuff. And then that church I was in, a friend, a dear friend. I love this guy. I'm so glad I met him. He made such a difference to me when I was so lonely and not feeling like a part of things. He really was a friend, and he told me about this one great guy that was pastoring this church out in Virginia Beach. So I started going there, 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, Sunday night. Midweek service and whatnot. I counted it up. One year, I drove over 7,000 miles just to church meetings. Over 7,000 miles. Well, eventually, his wife had dementia, and he ended up getting very very caught up in caring for her, and so that kind of went away, and he kind of wanted all of us to get around caring for her too. That wasn't where I was at the time. I'm like, no, I mean, and all this time that I was doing all this stuff, I was thinking, I need some stuff. There's something I need myself. Things just don't feel settled, just don't feel resolved. But nobody ever, to be honest, a few people tried to get to that, but it was not enough. It was not the depth of the lies I had believed and what I thought about myself and other people. So it was just not good. But anyway, so I ended up not continuing with that group. He ended up stepping down as the pastor there too to care for his wife, and so that kind of fizzled out for me. And then I found this other Latin church, and that was great. I was having a great time. They're so open and accepting, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I've been looking for. It's like a family, and a very accepting family. And but then they had a conflict with the church they were meeting at here that was fairly close by, and they got kicked out of the church because they believed different things. And then they ended up going way out to the middle of nowhere in Virginia Beach to this other place. But they thought, oh, you need to, thought I need to be there for services and for Wednesday night, and I need to give rides to other people and stuff. And I was, at that point in time, something just in me died. And I thought, if one more person asks me for one more thing, you're going to see my picture at the post office. I am done. So I just walked out of there, and I was like, okay, I have come. And what I felt like at the time, I don't feel that way now, but what I felt like at the time was I have completely failed in this church God religious thing. And the problem is I lumped them all together. I thought they were the same thing. I thought because I had failed to meet somebody's expectations in a church setting, I had failed to meet God's expectations because I thought he had expectations on me. That's not the truth. He doesn't have expectations. Yes, he wants you to be your best, but he's going to take you right where you are. I was just thinking, I got some coneflowers, which I love growing out in my garden. And, and we don't get a lot of sunlight, so they grow very slowly. And they're not I see other people's out in the full sunlight, and they're just like huge and big and muchy, and they're just covered with flowers. And I just have some flowers, and they're beautiful. But, they grow a little bit slower. But they don't grow any faster by me going out and telling them, hey, y'all need to grow. Get your grow on. So of course they're going to grow. You don't tell a child, hey, stop being a child. You need to grow up. That's the pressure we put on our kids, and so a lot of them miss a lot of their childhood because we're putting so much pressure on them to grow up and be an adult, so you can try for whatever else you're trying for, so you can pursue happiness all your life rather than just being happy where you are. So that's kind of what went on, and boy, it led, that sense that I had failed led to a lot of bad decisions. It was, anything to feel better, right? Whatever I could find, and that's where addictions come from too. We're wanting to feel better. We're wanting to escape the pain and feel better. And then we get involved in the wrong stuff, and then it becomes an addiction. So that went on for a long while too. So the end of the story is God was pulling at my heart. He brought the right people, right things back to go, now listen, look at me. Look at my love for you in a different light. You're not trying to earn my love. You're already in it, right? So stop trying to earn it and start receiving it, because you've already got it. You couldn't be. There's a song, I love this song. It says, I could never be more loved than I am right now. And wherever you are that's listening to this, I just want to tell you, you could never be more loved than you are right now. Now, that doesn't mean that everything about our life is wonderful. That doesn't mean that I'm saying, yeah, go out. If you're a mass murderer, go out and murder some people. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is right now you're absolutely loved. But so in our society today, we see all of these conflicts going on the surface. Well, you should be this, you should be like this way, you shouldn't be that way, you shouldn't do this. All of these conflicts going on the surface. What I want to do is not go, hey, you need to be this, you need to be that, whatever, like I'm judging people, like I've got the ability to judge anybody, but what I'm saying is, let's get below that surface level. Let's get down to the heart level of what's really going on. What are you thinking? How do you feel? What are you believing in your life that's informing that surface decision? And let's go down to that and start applying the grace and the love of God to that in Christ. He's taken it all. Every negative thing you've ever believed about yourself, every limiting belief, negative self-judgment, the voice of the inner critic that's always criticizing you and criticizing other people and criticizing circumstances. I've come to identify that, to call that the judge. It's the judge that's the guy that taught me that, Shirzad Shamin out of Stanford. He's a lecturer there and wrote a book on positive intelligence. He calls his judge the executioner because he's that vicious and that mean. Well, guess what Satan means? Satan means the accuser, the adversary. Same thing. But if I say Satan and demons to a lot of people, they'll think, well, he's like somebody that believes in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. But if I say the judge, that inner critic that's always beating you down and beating you up and whatnot, then people are like, oh, yeah, I get that. So what happened is that judge, I had gotten that a lot through religion, just in my developmental years. I felt like I was never good enough. Everything that was wrong with me, everything I did wrong, it wasn't. Let's correct that. Let's gently lead that into a better direction from love. It was like, no, what's the matter with you? That's what I felt like. And so I felt like, wow, I can't. That's what caused the rebellion in the first place. And then after the whole church experience, it caused more bad behavior and whatnot, because the love was missing. I was missing the love. I thought I had to earn it. And this is the trouble with organized religion, is if you're not careful, you can end up thinking, boy, everybody expects me to do this and this and this and this and this, and you'll end up saying yes to a whole lot of things you don't want to say yes to. Because saying no, they're like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? And you're like, oh, I don't want to be that, so I'll just say yes and put on a smiley face. And that's just like a bunch of garbage, in my opinion. If it's something that's really for you, you'll be led to it with joy, with love, with peace, with grace. And it'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do this. Rather than like, oh, you got to do that for everybody to be happy with you and to rubber stamp you and say, okay, you're a good person now. You're what you ought to be. God approves of you. No, God already approves of me. And he approves of you. He approves of me in Christ. He took everything wrong with me, put it on Jesus, took it away, nailed it to a cross, put it in a tomb, left it there. And only Jesus came out of the tomb, and he brought me with him. And you too, if you believe that. So that's his goodness. Like somebody said, it's too good to understand, but not too good to be true. I can't wrap my mind around it, how somebody could possibly love me that much, to willingly go through what he went through, to take guilt, failure, shame off of me. I usually don't use the word sin. I know some people are like, oh, you got to talk about sin. You got to talk about sin. I'm like, yeah, sin carries with it a sense of condemnation. But in the real, truest sense of the word, it just means to miss the mark. It's an archery term, and it means I did something rather than what I should have done. I didn't hit the mark. I didn't hit the mark of perfect love, of perfect grace, of perfect compassion. But that doesn't set me up for judgment and failure. That sets me up for grace and redemption. That's what it does. It is not a word that means, oh, you're just rejected, because hey, we've all sinned. That's what the Bible says. We've all sinned and fallen short of of God's glory. We haven't been as gloriously wonderful and loving and kind and compassionate as he is, and he's taken all of that, taken it away, and then brought us a whole new life. So the thing with organized religion, I just want to say, is be watchful. because I tell you what, it is amazing to me when I do get near that again. I mean, it is not long before people are like, well, you should go to this group and you should do this thing and you should come to this rally and you should go to this convention and you should go, you should be part of this program and this and this. And I'm like, good heavens, don't y'all ever let it rest? Do you always, can you not just be like, hey, it's so good to see you. Hey, let's grab a coffee and just talk about life, talk about what's going on. I mean, it's like, you ever thought of that? How about being a friend to somebody rather than just being a pusher of activities? Because I just want to say that the church will push you to activities. Maybe you're ready for them, maybe you're not. But if you're not, let me just say this. It does not affect how loved you are at all. You take all the time you need. It's almost like grief. It's like when you're going through grief, you can't push somebody to be better. They've got to work through it. They need time, and what they don't need is all your answers, and what they might need is your hug and your presence and your care. I remember hearing a story one time. It was a man who had lost his 16-year-old son. And this man was a church member, and what people would come to him and say, well, hey, all things work together for good to those who love God. That's a verse, if you don't recognize it, or in everything give thanks. And so he was like, oh my gosh, I just need to be I need to be this happy, positive person. Well, years later, he was having some issues with his stomach. Big surprise. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor removed a tumor. Thankfully, it was benign, but it was a tumor like the size of a grapefruit that was growing in his stomach. And they traced back the origins of this, and it started developing at the time that he started suppressing all of his emotions. Because he was trying to be the good Christian person, and hey, not sunny, happy people, not have any real emotions. So I love what Jay and Catherine Wolfe do. They have a website called hopeheals.com. She had a massive brainstem stroke back some years ago, and boy, it's been some recovery through there, and she's still got disabilities and different things that go around. She talks very openly and honestly about it, but the title of one of her YouTube pieces that I was listening to the other day was terrible. Thanks for asking. It's like, listen, and what their mission statement is that we are disrupting the myth that joy can only be found in a pain-free life. You can have a lot of pain in your life, and you do not have to deny it. You don't have to cover it up. You don't have to be this happy appearing yes person that's just so fake. You can be like a real person and who you really are, and be still loved and have joy in where you are. Jesus said, in this world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer because I've overcome the world. So guess what? Tribulation and good cheer are in the same verse. Jesus doesn't deny our tribulation. He says, you're going to have it. It's coming. You're going to have difficulties. So he knows that. He's owning that. Why can't we own it too? Like, hey, this is really a rough patch right here. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I know God's got it, and I know he's going to bring me through, but I don't know what to do. This is really hard. Why can't we admit this to ourselves? This is really hard right now. So I just want to give you permission, whoever you are and wherever you are, to be able to be real. And you can be real with God. You can come to him and say, what on earth? Sometimes that's honestly how we are. That's all we've got. David in the Psalms, you look through the Psalms, and boy, he's got a lot of things. He's like, how long, Lord? How long? How long is this mess going to go on? How long are you going to let these? And there's other Psalms. How long are you going to let our enemies have victory over us? How long are you going to let your people be wiped out? How long? Well, what on earth? Rise up, wake up, and do something. And sometimes it feels that way. But he's like, trust me, trust my heart, trust my heart. The wind and the waves may not be going the direction you want, but you can learn to surf. And he's like, I'm teaching you to surf. I'm teaching you to look to me and to trust me, even in the midst of crazy circumstances, and learn how to surf. I'm going to hold your hand, and we're going to do this together. Because he promises, hey, I'm never going to leave you, and I'm never going to forsake you. And there may be times when we utterly do not feel that way. We can't see him, we can't hear him, we can't sense him, but he's got us. He sees, hears, and senses us, and his heart is ever for us. So I hope you're blessed by this. I hope that there's nothing, no religious thing that's ever going to knock you out of trusting his goodness because you feel like you're not doing enough or you're not enough. So I hope that this is a blessing to you. So thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to wrap this up, but thanks for tuning in. And I just pray over all y'all in Jesus' name. I just pray for everybody here that they could receive the enormous, unbelievable magnitude of your grace. Regardless of what condition they find themselves in, or whether they feel like they've lived up to any man's standard or not, that they would receive you, that they know that Jesus is the standard and you've given him freely to us, and we're in him, so we meet the standard. We measure up. So I ask that you do that, Father, in Jesus' name. And for everybody, until next time, God bless you.